The Hawaii Democratic Revolution of 1954 resulted from the reactions of Democrats, 442nd veterans, and labor activists who formed a coalition to end Big Five and Republican dominance, ultimately causing political reform and fomenting a social revolution. During the late 19th century, Hawaii underwent immense political and economic change. The 1875 Reciprocity Treaty solidified the sugar plantation age in Hawaii, opening doors to American dominance masked in the rhetoric of Manifest Destiny. In 1887, King Kalakaua was forced by anti-monarchists to sign the Bayonet Constitution, which allowed foreign-born Western residents to vote and gave the territorial cabinet more power. This constitution caused the Hawaiian monarchy to lose power, and in 1893, Queen Liliuokalani was overthrown when she challenged the constitution's legitimacy. With the end of the Hawaiian monarchy, the Republic of Hawaii was established, and Sanford B. Dole was named as president. Hawaii was illegally annexed to the U.S. on July 7, 1898. In 1900, the Organic Act restricted Hawaii's ethnic majority, Asian immigrants, from voting, thereby maintaining white Republican dominance. The Republican Party in Hawaii maintained hegemony through an alliance with the Big Five. The Big Five were the leaders of a few corporations who controlled sugar plantations on Hawaii in an oligopolistic fashion with interlocking directorates.
They controlled everything, and by everything, we're talking about not only the legal system, we're not only talking politics, we're talking food supply, we're talking any kind of energy supply like oil, we're talking God.
The Republicans made decisions that benefited the Big Five companies, such as selling land for low prices, and in turn the companies used their power to ensure that Republicans got elected. The Big Five solidified their power by creating ethnic tensions in the plantations through varied wages based on race and segregation between the different ethnic groups. Republican power was also sustained through a coalition with the Native Hawaiians. The Hawaiians' political efforts were easily negated by the veto power of the U.S.-appointed territorial governor. Disillusioned with the ineffectiveness of the pro-sovereignty Home Rule Party, Prince Kuhio led some Hawaiians to form an alliance with the Republican Party as a method of gaining power and privilege. The Republicans enacted the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act in 1921, giving Hawaiians land for their support and preventing Asians from obtaining property. The social divisions created by the Big Five and the effects of the political dominance of the Republican Party were exemplified in 1931 when Thalia Massey, a white woman, falsely accused 5 non-white local men of raping her. The scandal escalated with what was perceived by mainland America as the honor killing of one of the accused men by Massey's mother and husband. The U.S. government was outraged at the 10-year sentencing of Massey's mother and husband. Bowing to mainland pressure, Territorial Governor Lawrence Judd commuted the sentencing to 1 hour. The controversial Massey case brought light to white supremacy in the islands and facilitated the development of a local identity among non-white minorities as they grew more angered by the injustices of the case and the social and political context from which it arose. The Big Five strategically maintained ethnic tensions to prevent interracial union organizing. Ironically, these social tensions became the driving force that pushed the labor movement and the need for reform. Plantation workers wanted just pay and freedom from discrimination, leading workers to join unions like the ILWU. On August 1, 1938, labor staged a peaceful protest on the Hilo dock. When the union activists expressed their solidarity as an interracial union, Deputy Sheriff Peter Pakele gave orders to shoot. The Hilo massacre displayed Big Five power and rampant political corruption in Hawaii, as well as the fear the Big Five felt toward the labor movement. Their fears were realized in the 1946 sugar strike when workers shut down 33 out of 34 plantations. This strike was pivotal in that it showed that union-wide striking was more successful than striking as a single race. The concept of multi-ethnic solidarity laid the foundation for the Democratic Revolution as it became possible to rebel against the alliance between the Big Five and Republican Party. This led to the 1949 dock strike organized by the ILWU and manifested the strength of the union as it marked the last attempts of the Big Five to break organized labor. Another source of hostile reaction and resistance to the oligopolistic control of the Big Five was the experience of Japanese Americans from Hawaii during World War II. Veterans sought social change through the GI Bill, where they took advantage of the government-financed education. This was vital to fomenting the revolution, as education is essential to upward mobility. Despite racist sentiment by right-wing Democrats, John Wilson, co-founder of the Democratic Party in Hawaii, allowed the 442nd veterans to join the party.
And the whole idea of the Democratic Party of equal opportunities for all was something that was very important and resounded with the veterans.
The Democratic Party received significant endorsements from the ILWU, and veterans even won offices in government.
Communism at this particular time was seen as something that seemed to acknowledge the difficulties labor was having.
The Red Scare of the 40s and 50s framed communists as grave threats. Therefore, Republicans generated fear in the public with accusations that leaders of the ILWU were communists, accusations that became more conceivable after the successes of the 1949 dock strike. This jeopardized the coalition between the ILWU and the Democratic Party. Tensions escalated when Governor Steinbach and the territorial government asked HUAC to investigate the alleged communists in Hawaii, including the trial of the Hawaii Seven. Moreover, the actions of Democratic Governor Steinbach divided the party into two factions over the issue of communism. This weakened the party as it lost members who walked out in protest. The two factions remained separated for the next 2 years, and consequently faced a humiliating defeat by the Republicans in 1950. Thus, at the 1952 Democratic Convention, the two factions decided to reunite into one entity, efforts that served as a prelude to the outcome of the 1954 election. With the support of the ILWU, World War II veterans, and a reunited Democratic Party, the Democratic Revolution was in tow. Also, by the year of 1954, the demographics of Hawaii had altered in that a critical mass amount of Hawaiian-born Asians had reached voting age. On November 2, 1954, the people of Hawaii went to the polls to vote, and voted en masse for the Democrats. In a complete upset, the Democrats won a 9-6 majority in Senate and a 22-8 majority in House. Once elected, the Democrats worked to obtain statehood for Hawaii. With the option of Hawaiian sovereignty not offered by the U.S. government, statehood was seen as the lesser of two evils. Under statehood, Hawaii would be able to end taxation without representation in Congress and gain states' rights protected in the 10th Amendment. More importantly, Hawaii citizens wanted to be able to elect their own governor, to prevent the political corruption evident in the Massey case and the veto power of U.S.-appointed territorial governors. Delegate John Burns pushed for the admittance bill, and with his strategic organizing, Hawaii was officially signed in as a state by President Eisenhower on August 21, 1959.
The revolution is not so much the election now, in terms of the Democrats getting control of both houses of the territorial legislature. It's the legislation that they enacted subsequently that provided these opportunities for local people, the non-white groups that historically had been excluded.
The Democrats improved and expanded the educational system by providing more university scholarships, establishing free citizenship classes, and raising teacher salaries. The Democrats also expanded the right of collective bargaining and created land reform by encouraging Hawaiians to sell their land, thus opening opportunities for other ethnic groups to own land. Despite ending the oligopolistic control of the Big Five and Republicans, the 1954 Democratic Revolution is an incomplete political revolution in that the objective of a representative democracy is yet unrealized. Many argue, with some credence, that the Democrats have recreated the system of political domination by social and economic elites that they fought so hard to overturn, a second layer of disempowerment for Native Hawaiians. Despite the incomplete nature of this political revolution, a social revolution was effected. Those who cohered around a local identity came together, united by their outrage about the repressive actions of the Big Five oligarchy, and demanded a change through the Democratic Party. Social divisions enforced by the Big Five were challenged, and ethnic segregation transformed into ethnic solidarity. This assimilation of ethnic groups ultimately developed Hawaii's unique cultural identity. The Hawaii Democratic Revolution of 1954 epitomizes the nature of revolution, and how revolutions emanate from the need for reform. Through the veteran and laborers' discontent, the revolution overturned the Republican oligarchy, defying tradition and years of foreign dominance in Hawaii. More than that, the Democratic Revolution restructured not only politics, but also society, as the diverse ethnic groups united for their cause. Their actions serve as an example of the role we, as citizens, can take in creating reform and fomenting revolutions. We must be the changes we seek, or the benefits of the 1954 elections will be short-lived.